So if your goal is to buy in 2023 when it comes to real estate, I can imagine you're feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit anxious in this uncertain market. So I'm gonna give you my top 3 ways to protect yourself, and these are ones that you can be using right now. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Conor Green. I'm a team leader and realtor here in Tampa Bay. And I know that a lot of people are uncertain right now, and a lot of people do want to buy homes, but they just don't want to put themselves in a bad position. So if you feel like you're in this category, this video is for you. And I want to give you a few tactics that are practical, you can use right now. They're not overly complicated, very simple in order for you to do that. So number 1, realize your negotiation leverage in this market. What I mean by that is, as a buyer right now in the real estate market, you have to be able to adjust your perspective, just like you have that uncertainty right now, and you probably didn't have as much uncertainty 6 months ago when it came to the real estate market. Adjust your perspective to that sellers no longer have as much leverage as they did before. So as the buyer, that means that you can push more when it comes to getting the price and terms that you want. So make sure you're not sprinting to the house you love because you feel like, oh, back in the pandemic, I missed out on a few bidding wars, I didn't move fast enough, because you don't want to lose some of that negotiation leverage, right? If you're a little bit too on top of things, if you imagine like kind of like a clingy, significant other, it's just gonna kind of make the other person feel like they're the ones in power and you're not. So at the end of the day, the person who wants it the least is the one in control. So if the seller wants to sell their house, which obviously they do because they have their market, and you want to buy it, but you want to buy it less than the seller wants to sell it, then you're going to be the one in control. And again, in this market, there's just not 5 buyers for every home right now, depending on the market you're in general. So make sure you push your weight a little bit when it comes to being the buyer. Now, a couple quick specific tactics on this are to be pricing in a correction. So even though the house next door was exactly the same and sold for, let's say, $500,000, price in a correction in your offer, both from maybe that house sold a couple months ago and another home in the neighborhood hasn't sold for as much, or even B, just imagining if there could be a correction, making sure that if there's a correction in 3-4 months, that you're still on top of it when it comes to equity. So try to price in a correction, and I would try to price in even like a 10% correction. Now, I'm not predicting prices go down by 10%, but as far as a hedge, that's what I would look for. And then number 2, do not let the seller get away with too many repairs not being done. Again, going back to leverage, realize that as the buyer right now in this market, you have more leverage, so you can ask for more things to be done. It's not just your huge safety issues, which are an obvious thing that the seller needs to do in order to sell the home, but also some more minor aesthetic things. Push for those things, and worst comes to worst, they say no. All right, number 2, buy a property that can be a rental for you in the future. What I mean by this is buy something that, yes, it satisfies your needs right now, but it can also make a good rental property in the future if you decide to sell it, let's say in 5 years. If you've ever wanted to build up a real estate portfolio, you say, I'd love to have some rental properties, have some tenants, be making some money like that. Well, let's just say you want 10 properties, that's your goal, right? Most likely you're not going to buy 10 properties in 1 year. You're gonna buy them over time. And so it's good to be buying properties that can then turn into a rental after you want to change, or life changes, you decide to change locations, jobs, you have another kid, family, X, Y, and Z, because then that allows you to not sell that property, but then to just rent it out. And if it's been 5 years or so, you're gonna have some inflation where the rental rates when you bought the property were maybe like about here, let's just say you're getting about $2,000 for rent for the property and your mortgage is like $2,000. So year 1, you'd just be breaking even if you tried to rent it out. But maybe in year 5, your mortgage stays at the $2,000, but now the rents are at $2,450. And now you've got that $450 wedge where you're cash flowing a little bit on the property. Now these numbers start to make even a little bit more sense if you buy like a duplex or a triplex, you live in one unit and rent out the others. All right, and then number 3, do not overstretch yourself financially. By not overstretching yourself financially, what I mean is if you could only afford, let's say, a $500,000 home, and yes, you get pre-approved for that, but at that $500,000 number, your monthly payments is gonna be taking up a lot of your available income that's coming in, and it's not leaving a whole lot for anything else after you account for all your food and other expenses. So let's say you live in the home for about 5 years. If you overstretch yourself financially, then in about 5 years, you're probably not going to have increased your income that much more. And as far as renting the property out to kind of defer that debt, so that debt would be considered your debt to income, it's not gonna do a whole lot. So you might not be able to keep that property and then buy another property. Instead, if you overstretch yourself from the start, you're probably gonna have to sell that property and then buy a new one. On the other hand, if you don't overstretch yourself financially and give yourself a little bit of a buffer, then you should be able to, in 5 years, if things change, be able to not only buy a new property, but also keep the current one, rent that one out, and then have the rent paid for your mortgage. Not only are you now going to own 2 units instead of 1, and now technically, congratulations, you're now a landlord, but you're also going to have cost average or price averaged the 2 prices. So if right now in 2023, your prices are here, if prices go up, great. Now you bought again and you can price average the 2 where, you're now somewhere in the middle. In the reverse scenario, imagine prices in 2023 are about here, and then in 2028, they drop a little bit. Well, you can basically cost average the 2. Basically, the wisdom is that over time, if you buy over time consistently, as the market goes up, right? Regardless of whether it comes up and down and does a little bit, in general, it is going to be going up. So ups, downs, but it is going up. And so if you cost average among them or price average among them, in the long term, you're gonna be doing well. And going back to not overstretching yourself and buying a property that can then become a rental, I can guarantee you that, let's say, every 5 years you buy a property, and so over the next 50 years you buy 10 properties. Once you go to retire, you're going to be sitting very pretty. So there you go, guys. If you're uncertain in this real estate market, but you do want to buy a home in 2023, you're just kind of wondering how to protect yourself from it. A, make sure to flex your negotiation leverage. B, buy a property that can be a rental after you're done with it. And C, or number 3, make sure to not overstretch yourself financially so that over time, you can cost or price average in the market. Let me know your thoughts below in the comments if you found that helpful. If any of these strategies are something that you're going to be implementing in your home search in 2023, if there's any other strategies that you feel are super effective and people should be thinking about right now, also make sure to drop them below so other people can see them. And as always, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and smash that like button so that I know for reference that it's helpful to you, and I'll keep making them. And for more practical real estate insight, subscribe to my YouTube channel where I make more videos that are super easy, just like this. But that's it for me today, y'all. So until next time, this is Conor Green. Have a blessed day.